Hey, welcome back to our channel. I'm Kathie and I am the founder and creative director of KBCS. And today we're talking about how we present our concepts to our clients and why it makes all the difference. Now, let me take you back for a second. Circa 2014, 2015, fresh out of college, I had just started freelancing and my process was, I would say, like a little rough around the edges around that time. I would design a few logo concepts and then maybe toss them into a PDF, maybe write like a brief few words about what I literally did. Like, hey, this is a logo with a star on it and arch typography. And then I'd just send that in an email to my clients and just be like, hey, take a look. Let me know what you think. And that was it. There was no context, no story, nothing. And naturally, my clients would have questions. We'd have a couple of emails going back and forth. Sometimes there was a lot of dumb, silly revisions. And I could kind of sense that there was a little bit of confusion sometimes coming from my clients. It wasn't necessarily that my work was bad. It was just that I wasn't presenting it properly. I was putting it all on my clients to look at these concepts and kind of just understand how it is that I got there with little to no details. So once I started noticing that, I remember I started shifting my process to starting to present my concepts in person instead. I'd meet with my clients and I would talk about the ideas myself, which really allowed me to show excitement for the work and even answer a lot of their initial questions directly. And this really changed things for me then because I noticed that clients really started to get excited about the work as well. Revisions were a lot fewer. And even the feedback was just a little bit more thoughtful because they understood why creative decisions were already made. So at this point, the process is starting to feel a little bit more collaborative, which I really enjoyed because it was less about me just executing design tasks for them and more about helping my clients solve a problem and really working with them to create solutions that really fit. Now, fast forward a couple of years when I was in the agency world, and man, talk about wake-up call. Compared to what I was doing before with my clients, it was like playing t-ball and now being in the major leagues. When I first got into agency world, I wasn't even in the presentations. I was more behind the scenes, working on the designs, developing the decks, creating mock-ups. And I would watch the creative directors who were going to be presenting, and they would be preparing like if they were preparing for a freaking TED Talk. They would write scripts and they would fine tune the presentation, sometimes coming back to me like, hey, can we move this slide here? Can we add a slide here? Because I need a bit of a pause so that I could kind of discuss the next idea. And honestly, that's when it really started to click for me. I started to see how presentations were more about crafting an experience. The strategy, the visual, the flow, it all told a cohesive story. It wasn't just about showing the design at that point. It was about selling the idea in a way that is thoughtful, that's exciting, and that's strategic. Once I started presenting on my own, I realized how much of a difference it really made. And trust me, for me, it was hard. I'm a designer. I'm not a public speaker. I'm an introvert, and having to present in this manner was really challenging for me at first. It really took some work, but it was worth it because once I started presenting in this way, it really changed everything for me. Clients started to trust the process and the vision, and all those silly little revisions that I used to get back in the day were pretty much non-existent. So in this video, I'm going to break down how we present concepts at KBCS. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about why presenting brand concepts well actually matters. When a client is hiring a designer or a studio to develop their brand, they're not just paying for the final files. They're paying more for creative thinking, professional insight, and strategic storytelling. Clients want to understand the why behind certain choices. They want to know that the work is driven by research and, most importantly, that their investment is worth it. A strong presentation connects the dots between strategy and creativity. It answers the questions before they're even asked, and it helps your clients feel seen and understood and excited about the possibilities. We guide our clients behind the intention and the thinking behind every single piece of the brand. And this in and of itself becomes part of the experience of the service overall. It not only helps us position ourselves as the experts that our clients can count on, but it makes clients feel more confident in the outcome. And it really helps us build a trusting relationship between us and them. So let's talk about how we prep before the presentation. I'm gonna be real, sometimes we are down to the wire and I'm making last minute changes on a presentation like minutes before I'm about to hop on a call. I try to avoid that for my own sanity and anxiety, but sometimes as I'm doing that final walkthrough, I'll realize that maybe we need to add a slide that's going to maybe have an impact on how we want the client to experience it. We break the presentation into sections: strategy, the brand vibe, logo, typography, color palette, mock-ups, and then build a deck that kind of supports the story that we're telling. So that means pulling in reference cues or videos or images. Maybe it's slide animations to help kind of guide the presentation. The deck isn't just a document. It becomes a little bit more of like a visual aid. And yes, sometimes that means that our decks are like 30, 40, 50 pages long, but that's okay because we're breaking things down into smaller slides and it's making it easier for our clients to be able to absorb what we're sharing. Now, let's get into how I structure the concept presentation. Every studio or designer kind of does this in their own way. Some people split strategy and design into two separate presentations. Some present it all at once. At KBCS, it really kind of just depends on the client and the scope. For clients where the project is maybe a little larger or we're presenting multiple concepts, then we will probably split the presentation into strategy first and then visuals next. For smaller projects, we might just combine it all into one. It really depends. We always do this live virtually so that we can kind of walk the client through our ideas, we can answer any questions, and we can build excitement in real time. We also record the call so that we can then send it to our client after the fact for them to revisit as they prepare feedback. For this video, let's assume we're doing it all together. We're presenting strategy and visuals all in one single presentation. Here's how the presentation typically flows. We start by talking through who we're designing for. We go over demographics, psychographics, goals, pain points, and we explain how this audience aligns with our clients' offerings. We'll add stock photos to the presentations to really bring these personas to life and so the client can visually see examples of the people that we are trying to target. Next, we break down what others in the space are doing, what's working, what's not working, where is there an opportunity to stand out among all of them. We identify key differentiators that the client might have that we can use to their advantage, whether through messaging or through unique visual choices. Then we conduct a brand audit by taking a look at the client's existing brand. What's working? What could maybe use a little bit of love? What opportunities do we see to better align them with their goals or their audience or the direction that they're headed? Based on all this info, we then define how the brand should show up. We describe the personality, the tone, the energy of the brand. We define brand traits and we really explore how expressive versus how functional the visual identity should be across different touch points. We'll even define a specific persona, like a celebrity or a musician, an artist, a fictional character, someone that reflects the essence of the brand so that the client can connect with it emotionally. Now we move into the visuals, and then this we usually break into 4 different parts. We start with the logo. We kind of walk through the primary mark and we talk a little bit about what inspired it, the story that it tells, and how it aligns with the strategy. We show alternate versions of the logo too. So we'll kind of show the logo in a stacked version, in a horizontal version, sometimes a badge version, an icon version, and we'll also walk through how each one of these are used. We then show the typography, and even this we spend a little bit of time on so that we can really walk the clients through why it fits the brand and how the typography will be used. So we'll show headlines and we'll show subheads and body copy. We'll show CTAs, and it's kind of for the client to be able to see how all of the different typefaces in their type suite will be used in relation to each other, and it helps them see the full type suite in action. We continue onto the color palette, so we introduce each swatch in their brand palette and kind of explain its purpose, why we chose it, and we'll also show a couple of color combinations within the brand palette so that they can see how much flexibility the brand palette can offer. And then we present any additional brand elements. So these are things like iconography, illustrations, borders, patterns. textures, things that support the story and bring cohesion to the visual identity. Throughout this part, we're slowly building things up. First, we're showing the logo, then we're showing typography, color, then typography in color, the logo over a pattern. Little by little, we start layering those elements so that the client can see how all of these elements start to work together. Finally, we end the presentation with showing mockups, and this is where things really come together. We're super intentional here. We're not just picking random mockups or just throwing the logo onto a tote bag and calling it a day. We really think about the client's specific needs and what mockups make the most sense for them. So we mock up menus, packaging, signage, merch, anything that actually makes sense for their brand. Usually it's things that they could see themselves developing in the future. Sometimes we'll design like a quick t-shirt design, maybe something that's maybe like 80% of the way there. It might not be like print ready, but it's enough to help the client visualize the potential and what we can do. Once we finish the presentation, we open the floor for any questions and first impressions. This is usually where the client will share any initial thoughts or feelings, but we always ask the client to kind of sit with it for a couple of days before making any big decisions. We also remind the client only to share the deck with their inner circle. So partners, immediate team or leadership, board members, not friends or family or people who weren't part of the process and don't have full context. If we were splitting the presentation into strategy and visuals, then we'd have one presentation where we'd get into all of the nitty-gritty of the brand strategy. So we would go into the target audience, the competitor analysis, the brand audit. And then in the second presentation, it would be more visual focused, where we would start the presentation with just a quick little recap on all things brand strategy, just to kind of reinforce that brand vibe and refresh everyone's memory. And then we dive into logo, typography, color palette, and mockups. So all in all, why do we present this way? This process might sound like a lot, but it really works for us. When you lead with strategy and story, it gives your client something to connect with from the very beginning. It's not about which logo do you like more. It becomes more about which concept best supports your goals and audience. Ever since we've adopted this method, we've never had a presentation go sideways. We've never had a client feel completely disconnected from the work that we presented. And that's because the design isn't random. Every design decision is backed by strategy. Every choice is intentional. And every step comes from clarity and care. It turns presentations into experiences, and it makes the rest of the project run so much smoother. If you're an introvert like me, the idea of presenting like this might sound hella overwhelming. But with practice and preparation, it does get easier. And honestly, it's made these presentations one of my favorite parts of the job. There really is nothing like seeing a client's face light up when they finally get to see their brand coming to life. It's so satisfying, and you can't help but feel proud of yourself and the outcome and the work, and also excited about this new journey that they're on. But that pretty much wraps things up as far as how we present our concepts to clients. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to our channel so that you can catch more videos like this. And make sure to also follow us on Instagram at WeAreKBCS to keep up with all things KBCS. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye.